Hi, it's Anne-Marie from Charmed Life Therapy again. I just wanted to show you this today while all of the buzz is happening over Taylor Swift and what was or wasn't her input in the filming, casting, whatever you like, of It Ends With Us. So I'm just going to ask you to watch this here and then we will just discuss.
You have somebody as beloved and as recognizable as Blake, the only way it can really work is if you have somebody that resembles her. So we did a TikTok search. We looked through thousands of women and tapes, and we had lookalikes submit who had never acted before, and then I found Isabela. Our wonderful casting director sent me her tape, and I watched it, and I remember asking, did she put that mole there in that place? And if you look at her at the right angle, it's a spitting image. More than just the resemblance, she is a phenomenal actress. And this was her first film.
She told me Taylor Swift helped her get the role, like signed off on her audition tape.
I had brought in, I was casting, and I had actually brought in and showed her casting tape to Blake and Taylor, and they were both like, yes, her. And that's a true story. You have somebody as beloved and as recognizable as Blake.
So what I really want you to get from this is firstly just to look at how tired and exhausted Justin Baldoni looks when you've seen him on other things, and he's obviously clearly a very handsome man. But anybody that was watching during that promo time for It Ends With Us, I think you could see that he was not at his best for sure. Even on the premiere night when he was in the pink suit and all of that, if you really got close-ups of his face, he looked tired, he looked drained, he looked like he was ready for a good holiday. And I think that shows here. He looked like he'd given up on his hair. It's like I'm just knackered from fighting fires is what it looked like. But if you look at the start of that clip, he's quite buzzy. He's he's really kind of on it, if you like. And then the minute he's talking about Isabela Ferrer and bigging her up and saying what lengths they went to find her, digging through thousands of hours of tape and TikTok and really scrutinising and finding her. And then you've got the reporter chip in and go, oh yeah, I spoke to her yesterday. She says Taylor Swift was the one that cast her, basically. And I think what you can watch there is Justin Baldoni just completely collapse and think, oh no, this is another fire to fight. What do I say here? And you can see his eyes go to the right, which generally is when you're scrambling for ideas and you're trying to create something or trying to think, what can I cobble together at speed that's going to make sense? And that's kind of what he does, because he's just literally explained just then how much time and effort he and his casting director went in finding Isabela Ferrer. And then they just gone, oh no, but wasn't that Taylor Swift? That just said, and that's not coming from Taylor Swift. That is coming from Blake Lively. But, because she's told Isabela Ferrer that. And made it legend, made it canon, if you like, if you're into Marvel and that. But poor Justin Baldoni, I mean, he'd started that clip by bigging up Blake and saying how beloved she was and how important it was to get the right person and it had to be a close match and all of that. So putting all of that time and effort into it, and then to have that happen. And it's like, at that point, because it's about the promo of the movie and he can't say anything negative about anybody and he doesn't want to damage Blake Lively's reputation, he kind of asked to scurry and said, oh yeah, it was like the casting tape and gone through it all and I just showed it to Blake and Taylor. Because I think from my little Google search, it seems like Isabela Ferrer didn't actually start filming on It Ends With Us to January 2024. She was like the second phase of it. So you imagine, I think we were told that kind of Justin Baldoni went to Blake Lively's apartment a couple of times or more to discuss things. So at one point Taylor was there. Again, it might have been a staged thing on Blake's part to have them both there at the same time or whatever. Whenever this meeting was, where they were probably just having a very buzzy chat about things. And you know, maybe Justin whipped out his phone, maybe he had a tablet, maybe he had some footage to show, whatever it was, however he did it, just so, you know, so excited about this girl that he's found that's this lovely match for Blake and blah blah blah. And of course Taylor and Blake, you know, go, oh yeah. And then what has happened is that it's turned into a whole other thing. It's turned Blake, because we know she loves to create a story, we love that she knows to make something out of nothing, and we know she likes to take credit for everybody else's work too. She has fed to Isabela Ferrer that Taylor Swift was instrumental in casting her, that Taylor Swift found her and Taylor Swift signed off on her and all of this to ingratiate herself with Isabela Ferrer, to get another person into her orbit, to give her more power, to give her more control, to give her more sway over things, you know. And that's what it's all about. I don't honestly think Taylor Swift has anything near what people think that she has had in terms of input and this movie. I think Taylor's just, you know, been shown a few things and just been a friend and just chipped in where she was asked to chip in, and just has just gone along with it and just, you know, supported Blake as you would a friend and encouraged her and the rest of it. But by no means do I think she's tried to stamp her authority all over this film. And poor Justin Baldoni on that clip, because as soon as he hears that reporter go, Taylor Swift was instrumental in the casting of it, you can see straight away he starts accessing his feelings, his eyes go downwards. And it must have been like sheer despair, just to think, all that time, all that effort, and now I've got to answer this nonsense and come up with something to say that still sounds positive, that's still pro the movie, without lying, because I don't believe he's a liar. So you imagine, during that whole press tour, he was fighting fires like this, kind of mopping up wherever Blake Lively had dumped a trail of devastation. And all that time he's trying to not lie, not outright lie, when he's put in weird positions like that and asked to comment on it. And also tried to continue supporting his leading lady, because A, he's a supporter of women, and B, it needs to be done for the good of the film and the success of the film. But I just think it's so sad watching that little video, because just look at him. A, look at how tired he is. Look at how he is and what he says before the Taylor Swift comment from the reporter, and look at him afterwards. Watch it again and you'll just see he crumples. It's like, oh, Taylor Swift cast her. Just like that. Those thousands of hours I spent trawling through TikTok and watching tapes and auditioning people and all the casting directors' work. All for nothing, all for just Blake to walk along and say, oh, I changed the narrative here. I say Taylor Swift cast Isabela Ferrer. You know, and, you know, people are commenting that Taylor Swift is like furious at Justin Baldoni for being dragged into this. But the thing is, it isn't Justin Baldoni that's dragged her into it. He's kind of had to, in effect, because it has to be there for context. You know, some of his claims about the extortion and things like that, Taylor Swift is instrumental to it because she is a tool of influence. That's what Blake used her as. Blake used her as her dragon to exert power and control, just like she pulled Isabela Ferrer into her orbit and Brandon Sklenar into her orbit in order to have more control over things, pulled Jenny Slate into her orbit, started dropping little whispers here, there and everywhere till everybody was on board with her. And we know she does this because she admitted to doing it on Gossip Girl about Penn Badgley. So this is her modus operandi. But, you know, poor Justin Baldoni. We should go back and look at I mean, I guess most people are, but the more looking at Blake's comments from this promo tour during It Ends With Us, we need to look at more of Justin Baldoni's, because the more you do, the more it's clear just how tired he was. Because by this point, he'd been like putting out Blake's fires for the best part of 2 years and handling her. And I believe all that flattery at the beginning that he gave her as well, where he's saying, you know, she's so beloved and she's all of this. That's my main theory about Blake. You see, she does like this idea of being beloved by everybody. That is her main theme. And I think at this point, when Justin Baldoni is saying these things, I mean, he's being nice, he's being kind, but he also knows that he's in this very tricky position where he's unpredictable. He doesn't know what she's going to do at any given time about anything, whether it's to do with the movie or to do with his personal life or what happened on the movie. So he's kind of using the only tool that he knows that works with her, which is flattery. That's probably how he had to control her a lot on the film, keep bigging her up, keep feeding her ego, keep keeping the peace and all of that. And that's how he starts the interview with more flattery, saying how beloved she is, you know, and how important it was, and how people wouldn't believe it if they didn't get somebody who was really, really similar, you know, it wouldn't fly and all of that. All bigging up Blake because that's the only means he has at his disposal of kind of having any kind of sway with her. The poor guy had 2 years of absolute misery dealing with this movie and this woman. I think that's the truth of it. So yeah, I hope you found that interview interesting, but you can see how he goes from accessing memory and just what he did and the way it was, to dipping into feelings and kind of collapsing and going, what on God's name can I create to say that's, you know, it'll have had to been like this. And he accessed his feelings because obviously he's just gone, all the air's just been taken out of him, because it's like, this was my project. I was there. I was the one doing these things. I was the one trawling through the tapes with the casting director. It was me and it was them. And again, let's just take that off me, take all that work, take all that smart casting, you know, and that in-depth thing that we did and how it worked and how we pulled it out of the bag, and just give it to the random megastar that isn't even interested in my movie. You know what I mean? That's just the best mate. Can you imagine how crazy that is, to have lived that existence for a couple of years where everything you did, every bit of work you had, everything you created, everything you imagined, everything you brought to fruition was trampled over by the blonde with the Louboutins on her feet, trampled all over it, you know, and took entire credit as well too. Poor Justin Baldoni. All right, thank you for watching, but do please like and subscribe and share if you can. Hope you're enjoying this content, and I will keep bringing more to you. See you later.